How many of you are familiar with Juju? Enough? Maybe enough just to get some information here? How many of you have no idea what Juju is?
Can I lie and say I should, but I don't?
You should, but you don't, right. I'll do a quick little summary, and then the great thing about Juju is that we could just show you how it works, and you'll kind of understand just by watching what we're going to do. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pretend that Juan, my able assistant, is setting up. He's setting up his own. We're going to do a nice, simple use case that everyone can understand. He's just going to set up like a blog for himself, and then we're going to show you that live. How many of you have ever set up like a WordPress blog or something by yourself? So it's just simple LAMP thing, and we're going to show you how we do that in the brave new world of Juju, which allows us to horizontally scale on Amazon. So, Juan, you ready? Give it up for Juan, everyone. We'll workshop this together. Want me to hang out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to get closer so we can walk around and help you out so we don't bite? Okay, stay away then.
Yeah. Great job.
Yeah. Where am I?
There you are. And you're here too.
Oh, cool.
Increase
So-
the font size a little bit.
Can everybody see this?
Control plus.
Juju is a service orchestration tool. So when we deploy anything, we consider it as a service. So we try to encapsulate all the necessary knowledge that's needed in this particular case to deploy WordPress in what we call a charm. So we have a couple of charms that we normally use to show the capabilities of Juju, and I'm going to deploy a couple of those. Like George mentioned, it was going to be WordPress, just a blog.
Yeah, so I can already install WordPress on EC2 though. I could just go into the thing, launch an instance, and start installing stuff. How's this different from that?
When you install WordPress on your own, it requires you to go into WordPress and then change the configurations. And then when you change anything, for example, if you change the instance that you have because the one that you had was a small, now you want a large, that process needs to be repeated. So by using a charm, you encapsulate, like I mentioned a little earlier, you encapsulate all the necessary knowledge to be able to deploy that. But one of the main differentiators in Juju is that we define what's called interfaces. Let me show you a little bit of what I mean when I start talking about interfaces. So if you've deployed a WordPress, then you know you need MySQL. In Juju, when we're creating the WordPress charm, we know that we're going to need a MySQL charm so we can connect them. And that's where the magic of this thing shows. We are able to bring up a MySQL instance that doesn't know anything about WordPress, bring up a WordPress instance that doesn't know much about anything that it's going to connect to, and then just relate those two, and all the necessary configuration steps that need to happen for WordPress to talk to MySQL to talk to WordPress will just happen. And that's something that you can just do over and over again with just a few commands. Okay. When you do this by yourself, you have to go into change configurations, create users and passwords, and then pass them on and test all that configuration. All of this happens in Juju, magically. But this is one of those things that it's easier to just show you because then you just quite get it.
Okay.
So telling Juju deploy the charm name WordPress, which is going to get it from the charm store, and I just want to call it my blog.
Now, as far as my Amazon credentials and all that stuff, how do I set that up? Is this just a simple file where?
I guess I should have started with that.
Yeah.
I wasn't not ready for that.
Sorry, you don't have a sanitized one, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay, so there's a file called in .juju called environments.yaml, and you stick your access key and your private key in that file. But those are your credentials to launch instances, which is why we can't show his right now. But hopefully, you've been to You've used Amazon before, so you know why. Right. So it's two text fields. You'll paste in your key, and then when I type things like deploy, they just automatically launch on Amazon, right?
Yes, and I will sanitize mine and I'll show it to you in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are gonna try to get this, Juju has a command status, which I pretty much do every time I do anything with the Juju. It gives me an idea of what's going on. As we can see, my blog is pending. We're waiting for Amazon to spin up the instance and then launch it and then have it ready, at which time Juju will take over that, and then now we can manage that instance quite easily. We don't need to wait for it to be done, so let's go ahead and deploy MySQL. I'll just call it MyDB, because I can't think of any.
I like how I don't have to deal with looking up AMIs and any kind of image soup. You just get raw Ubuntu server, 64-bit,
And
right in Amazon. I don't have to do anything.
yeah, I can't even remember the last time I started dealing with the
Yeah, okay.
AMIs, or I probably forgot to, which is a good thing, because in two commands, I've already deployed WordPress and MySQL, and just two more, and we'll be done. So something that would normally take you 1 hour, or however long it takes you, I can probably do it in just a couple of minutes. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with the WordPress and the MySQL. They'll come up in a couple of minutes. I don't even have to wait for that either. I want to do something here. That's a command that eliminates a lot of the work that, in this case, George would have done to configure his WordPress by hand. In here, one of the interfaces that I showed you earlier, I think I still have it in here somewhere, it defines interfaces. As you guys can see, one of the things that WordPress requires is a database. In this case, MySQL database. By having these interfaces defined, requires and provides, we can connect these guys and have anything that needs to happen just happen automatically.
So these are things normally I'd have to do by hand, like creating a MySQL user, populating the database.
Creating the user, going
Right.
to WordPress, and then editing whatever config file you need to edit. That kind of gives you an idea of how much I've done in the WordPress world. I don't even remember the files that I need to change because I don't have to. I think you did WordPress and you did MySQL, and as long as you know, it's all done for me. And that actually speaks volumes for how quickly we can start deploying these things. So once we have these charms with the defined interfaces, we can just connect them, and anything that needs to happen will just happen. At this point, we have deployed WordPress, MySQL, and related the two guys. So the only thing that we need to do is just take a look and see how it's working out. Let's take a look. For the observant, I know I have not exposed. I wanted to prove that point.
There's this auto paste bin URL for sample environments. You want to show that?
Just do it on IRC and I'll catch it here. I wanted to show something. I'm here at the status, and I'm trying to, let's see, okay, I deployed WordPress, I deployed MySQL. Now I want to see what that WordPress looks like. Let's go to where my blog is. Where's my blog? Right here. And as you guys can see, I have the public address of it. So let's paste that into a browser, but it's not showing up. This is actually done on purpose. We have all these services closed off to the world until you decide otherwise. And oh, here we go. I'll go to that in a minute. We have all these services closed off to the world until you do what we call exposing the service. Whenever you're creating a charm, like WordPress and MySQL, inside of the charm, you define what ports and what protocol these ports need to be open whenever you decide to open them. That's what we call expose. Until then, nobody can access those services, and I think it's actually a good thing.
Do you have to expose services from the top to each other?
No, they do talk to each other within the same environment.
So you don't have to expose for them to talk to each other, but for the public to see you have to expose.
Exactly. You should know that. Don't be asking.
I was.
I know. And here we go.
So basically, you did in 4 commands what normally would take at least a half hour, right?
Yeah, as it is. It took me just 5 minutes with all the talking that I'm doing.
Right.
And for what it's worth, there's
Yeah, you didn't even have to SSH in.
Yeah, like I said, one of the beauties of this thing is that I did mention that I would have to start reading how to deploy WordPress because I haven't done this in so long. I forgot the file that I need to change, but that's not something that I need to know at the moment. I don't have to SSH anywhere. I don't have to deal with ACLs. I don't have to know the AMI. I just Juju deploy something and it goes. And then relayed WordPress to MySQL. And these guys have already taken care of anything that needs to happen in between these two guys.
So really, since there's a charm store with over 100 charms, what you're saying is any one of those services I can launch in Amazon in 2 or 3 commands.
Absolutely.
That is pretty cool.
One of the ones that I play with a lot is MongoDB, and if you guys have deployed MongoDB, a shard, that takes a little while. A lot of things that need to be changed in the configuration file, in the command line option, etc. And we can deploy a sharded cluster with just these couple of commands. We can do Zookeeper. We have, as you can see, these are just the official ones, and the ones that we have reviewed and we consider stable. And as you can see, we have a number of these guys. Have anybody have any preference or want to see something either charmed or deployed if we don't have it? Anything you guys are working on?
I do have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
So far you've launched and deployed stuff, but I know there are tools that make automating, launching things into Amazon already. But now we have this up and running. Why, am I done with Juju? What needs to happen? So let's say my blog starts to get some traffic.
So this is where where deploying things in Juju at the beginning I mentioned is service orchestration. So we deployed the service, now let's start orchestrating stuff. So like George was saying, we have a whole bunch of people that like what we want to write, or what we're writing. Well, let's finish the WordPress so we actually have something to type in here.
All right.
Cool.
So let's say it's a few weeks later, and I'm blogging nice controversial things and getting a lot of traffic and have great ads and things like that. The cloud is supposed to be really elastic, right? So what happens next?
It's a very complicated process too, because you have to instantiate a brand new WordPress. So now we have two. We have a command called add unit. So what add unit is going to do is take the named service and just add another one. And it'll take care of all the configuration for that service, all the relationships within that service, and that's pretty much all that we need to do.
So in a way, I don't really care about the machines anymore. I care about the service.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't know, at this point, I don't know what the AMI I'm using. And I really don't care. I care about WordPress. I care about the service that I'm using, and I care about MySQL, the database that is providing the data for the service that I'm using. And if I need to expand, scale out that particular block, I just add unit to that particular block, and then I become even more famous, and I need to add 3 more before my whole thing dies, and we have a particular switch for it, and I just added 3 more, and
And this all auto load balances and everything.
we can, no, at this moment, no, but you know what? We have load balancers for this thing, and we have
Okay.
caching, so we have HA proxy, we have Memcache that we can attach to these things.
Actually, that was gonna be my next question. So now that my blog is becoming pretty popular, I know the Charm supports load balancing, built-in and all this stuff, but we can show you that later. But I've been reading that the way to really, really scale out WordPress is to add some Memcache. Now, I would go into Google and say, how do I connect Memcache to WordPress and stuff? How can you help me there?
The first thing that I would recommend is before everybody starts trying to figure out how to make the charm, let's see if we have it. It's a very good learning experience. A, because I don't have to code it.
Okay.
And it'll be there, and I can just download it and then see how it was done. That usually helps out in avoiding some of the battle scars that we all have. But it simplifies a lot of the deployment process. So let's look for Memcache, and we can see where's the official one.
Right.
Memcache D. So I take a look at it and see if this is what I want. These guys have done a pretty good job at providing you a lot of the information that is provided by the charm in a pretty much automated way. We have descriptions, we have relationships that each charm provides, and it gives you pretty much all the information that you need to at least make an educated decision whether this is the charm that you need or not. You guys have questions so far? It's all quiet.
Okay.
All right. So let's deploy Memcache.
So it's really cool. One of my favorite features of this charm is you just add Memcached, and the expertise of connecting it to WordPress and making sure it scales and the web servers are serving out of Memcache instead of hitting the nodes themselves. This is something that Marco did in the charm. So just by merely adding another command to our existing 3 commands. Now, you mentioned earlier and I was mentioning earlier that we don't care about the machines. So are all of the nodes now talking to Memcached?
No, I need to add the relation just like I did within
okay.
WordPress and MySQL. But one thing that I could tell you is that since we are talking and caring about services, and now our blog has, I think it's 4 machines. When we connect our WordPress My Blog service to Memcache, all of the units that are associated with that particular service will get associated with Memcache. So this is something that, since I'm talking about services, any unit that is part of that service will automatically be configured to talk to the other service.
So when you add this relation, you're saying that all 3 or 4 of those nodes, or however many, are just going to be configured to use Memcache?
Yes.
I don't believe you.
Let's give Memcache a minute to
Oh.
finish provisioning, and I'll prove you wrong.
Any questions so far on that? So the question is it's so high level, he doesn't know what web server we're running now.
That's it, yeah, that's what I was gonna.
When you showed me the charm for WordPress, there was nothing about web server. WordPress is providing HTTP, which is a bit confusing.
Okay, so while Memcache is firing up, why don't we show him what the WordPress charm is doing?
Yeah, by all means.
Actually, Juan, that's a whole version of WordPress charm. The one in your source directory? The one on YouTube charms.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it, you already
I
talked.
saw the metadata. He knows.
We can go into the install hook, and one of the things about jujucharms.com, you should all take a look at it. We show you what's being done. Regarding your question, you wanted to find out how it's being installed. WordPress. I mean, I know your specific question was about the web server, but that could cascade into, okay, well, how are you putting WordPress together? And here we just show you exactly how it's being done.
So actually what we did in this particular charm ships with a reverse proxy and load balancing Nginx configuration from a guy who's really experienced with Nginx, and we've been kind of tweaking it and things like that. And this is the setup that's running the blog OMG Ubuntu that does get a significant amount of traffic. So we know it scales. Even before adding the Memcache, it already pretty much will scale more than like most default things that ship. The nice thing about this is that anybody can run this in Ubuntu and it will always be nice and fast.
And the answer to your question is Nginx. No, I wanted to make sure that I answered the right, the question, not leave it hanging.
So these hooks that you see and he's going to start showing you and stuff is usually the stuff that you would see in that, how do I get WordPress to scale on Ubuntu blog post or wiki page, right? We just take the good information of that and encapsulate that in the charm and you add the metadata. That's why it looks like magic. What really is collecting everyone's magic, putting it in one spot and iterating on it.
Let's see how Memcache is doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Memcache is done. So let's go ahead and add my blog and relate that with Memcache.
My gosh.
I think that'll do.
Mm-hmm. So right now, all 3 or 4 of those ones, I forget the exact number, are configuring themselves to talk to Memcache.
Let's find out. As I mentioned, Juju Status provides a wealth of information that tells you what ports are open, what ports are closed, if it's exposed, if it's not, what's related to what. But let's take a look at that.
So when you take all the commands he's typed in 4 or 5 commands, he has a fully scalable WordPress setup with Nginx load balancing and Memcache in 4 or 5 commands that anyone using Ubuntu Cloud can deploy right now, and we know it can handle at least millions of hits per month so far. But if I need more, I can always add a unit.
Absolutely.
Right.
Let's take a look at the, if you look at the screen, you have the charm, my name, my blog, and the relations. And you can see that relation cache is, my cache, that's the name that I put to the Memcache service. MyDB, the database, and open ports. Ports that have been open on this particular charm. Public address for each one of the nodes in case that for whatever reason you need to know that information. It's certainly useful to have, and the state of each one of these guys. And just like George says, in the 7 commands, we have WordPress, MySQL, Memcache, all configured, running, exposed, and ready for me to start harassing people and typing.
I'm not copying and pasting server configs to get auto load balancing and stuff on each of the nodes. I haven't had to SSH to anything. That's
Yes.
kind of weird in a Unix kind of way. But here we have 4 or 5 nodes running on AWS, ready to go already.
And, let's see, this is still... Oh, I didn't forget the password. That's a good thing.
So here's another case where we were able to encapsulate best practice with like the scaling plugin for WordPress and stuff, so it can just push the stuff into Memcache. And that's all things that Marco just collated from the internet and other experts and things like that, and talking to a WordPress guy and, how do you guys, what's the best way to do this and do it this way? That's the way everyone's gonna do it. We'll just ship it that way.
Any questions so far? Yes.
Sorry, actually I did have 3 questions. Can I ask one by one?
Sure.
Yeah.
The first question is, when you trying to run Juju on AWS, so what flavor the Juju pick? Like the M1 tiny and M1 small, things like that?
So the question is what kind of instance type Juju uses when it launches?
By default, M1 small in AWS.
Can I configure it?
Absolutely. I can Let's do that. So there's two ways that I know. That I don't know everything about
Just
about
constraints.
Juju.
Don't show the other one.
It's well, what happened? Let's deploy another WordPress. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Constraints is the answer that to your question. It allows you. It allows you to.
It's my blog, not WordPress, right?
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With constraints, you can specify instance type, M1 tiny, M1 small, M1 large, among other things.
Yes, also, if you forget what each instance type is in your head, you can just say CPU equals 8, RAM equals 32G, and then it will figure out what size you need. So you don't even have to remember the nicknames if you don't want to. Yeah, you just know I need a lot of CPUs or I need a lot of RAM or both.
And there's a whole list of constraints that you can use. Juju.ubuntu.com, it's where I go and find them because I never memorize them. I think that's about the only one that I memorize. And you say you have 3 questions?
Yeah.
Next.
The second question is, you are saying when you deploy a service, you have to expose that. So I have no idea what the expose do. Am I right that the default VM is block all the ports, so the expose is open the ports you want. Is that correct?
So to sort of repeat the question for the video, he's asking, when he types Juju expose WordPress, he doesn't really know what's going on. How do I figure what? So let's just talk about what happens during an expose.
When you have to take it a step back. When you're creating the charm, and I'm looking for that here. Thanks. When you're creating the charm, the charm author defines what ports are going to be open when the Juju expose command hits it. And that's something that has to be done that way because there are different ports and different needs for each charm. That's how we maintain a sort of a control on what ports are going to be open and exposed, and that we don't have to open the whole range. In the case of WordPress, you can see it highlighted here at the bottom. It's open port 80, and /TCP. It's the protocol that we're going to be opening that port. And that's how we control what port gets open and what port gets closed when you unexpose it.
And the last question is, like you said, your blog is quite popular, becomes quite popular. But I do care about my blogs. What if the instance terminated by accidentally? So you do a lot of load balancing and cache, but what if one instance shut down? What happens?
So the question is what happens if you lose the instance or it gets shut down or reboot because you're in the cloud? And so what are we doing to protect user data up in there?
So if you lose, let's take it one at a time. If you lose one of the WordPress instance, you just add unit and you get another one. All the configuration will get provisioned again. All the relationships will get added again. That doesn't really affect you too much. With regards to exactly what happens, in reality, well, nothing. The connections come in and they're load balanced. If you lose one of the instances, you just bring another one up.
What if I lose the database though, and I only have one instance running of it?
If you lose one of the database?
Yeah.
Well, if you lose the database, then you lost your data. Clint wrote the MySQL database, and I think the MySQL charm, I think you can answer it better than I can.
Yeah.
What if you lose the databases?
Yeah.
You should have backups.
You should have backups. So that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So what we actually do on production on OMG is anytime there's a relationship change, or anytime he's doing a new deployment, automatically take snapshots of everything and dump it into S3.
EBS rooted.
Oh, is it?
We're running with EBS rooted volumes.
Okay, okay, okay. So really, it depends. We know that handling data like that and stuff is important. But currently, what we're doing is just recommending to people to do what you would normally do if you had to do it by hand. But obviously, it's an area that we're thinking about. Wouldn't it be cool if just you had version backups of everything and it was just nice and out of the box? And
I have an experimental fork of the MySQL charm that uses Galera,
okay.
and then add unit works. And they can all
Nice.
serve the same databases.
Oh,
We want to experiment with like the RBD and everything. It's the same story that you would have ever with MySQL. And you do HA, data MySQL, you do it in charm.
And one of the reasons that we have, if you look in here, in jujucharms.com, we show you all the charms that we have. We show you all the code. You can download it, and that's an example. You branch MySQL and you add it and modify it, and then you submit the changes and patches, and we all benefit from that. And it seemed to have been.
For the recovery case right now, you can deploy a second service of MySQL
Mhm.
instead of replication between the two.
Clint's saying that
Manually fail over. It's not automatic.
Clint is saying that for replication at the moment, you can just deploy a separate MySQL and then change the relationships.
Okay, thank you so much.
And, to what? We should show that now. MyDB2.
let's do it.
This is what we have right now. This is our one and only database.
Okay, so after listening to his question, I'm paranoid.
Mhm.
So what we're doing now is just going to fix his problem.
To be honest, I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
That. I haven't made a backup of the original one, right?
It's okay, it does it on the relationship.
Perfect.
Wow, look at that.
Let's wait for that to show up. That's basically a watch of MySQL.
So what's happening here is it's launching another instance.
Yeah, we're launching
I'm
a brand-
running 5 or 6 instances by now.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
a number of my of.
It's just
WordPress.
really easy to just keep adding units. Okay.
Yeah, and what Clint was saying, generate a brand new service, MyDB2, because I don't have any better name, and then just change the relations. So break the relations to the existing WordPress and just add it to the existing database and add it to the new one. Cool. In theory.
That's a video that came out of WordPress.
Okay.
All the data from the crowd?
But yeah, it's already there.
So as you speak, Clint is working on your problem. Excellent.
It's the magic of open source. Actually, because yeah, go ahead.
And this is one of the magic of Juju is that we're gonna solve this for OpenStack users, for instance.
Mhm.
Make OpenStack better, and then other users of MySQL get the benefit.
Yes. I'm sorry.
How much load balancing is the WordPress instance aware of? Is that just a single server without anything, and you keep the load balancing outside, or is there any?
No, on WordPress, that's actually done on the webheads, right? In each of the WordPress units?
He wrote the WordPress
Yeah.
charm, so he will be
Yeah.
the Marco Chepi, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. The question is, how's it doing it in the load like, do you have an instance that's just doing the load balancing, or what?
So in the case of the WordPress charm, to cut
Actually,
down the amount
hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
There you
There you
go.
go.
Okay, so for the case of the
Repeat
WordPress
the
charm.
question, repeat the question.
Oh, yeah, so the question was, how is the WordPress charm load balancing? Is it a separate load balancer, or what is happening in this case? And so in the case of the WordPress charm, whenever you add a unit, there's a separate relation that fires that says, all other units that are out there, all peers of this service, talk to each other, let us know that we're available. So Nginx then writes a reverse proxy so that whenever you hit any of the webheads, it randomly chooses one of these other units as the upstream. So any webhead you ping inside of the WordPress service becomes a load balancer to one of the other units. And whenever a unit disappears, a hook fires that says remove this unit from the pool on all of the other units. So it's almost like a self-sustaining load balancer where there's no one point of failure in this kind of small cluster of units for the service. But in other services, it may just be that you actually deploy HA proxy or another load balancer. It depends on how the charm is coded and what it exposes to other services.
So in the older WordPress charm, we would deploy an HA proxy, which was just an instance just sitting there, dishing out to the other WordPresses. But when we figured out that Nginx lets you have your cake and eat it too, we thought you get to remove the need for a dedicated instance and have each one load balance.
Hold on. Give him the microphone.
So with the old one, you had to go into the instance and set up load balancing manually,
No, you would
No.
just deploy HA proxy,
and it would just
add
work.
relation.
Relate HA proxy to
Yeah,
WordPress,
yeah.
and it's done.
Yep.
Okay, and this can probably be done with anything, even MySQL, if you so choose.
That,
Or-
we've heard that
I get
before.
that. There are
Well,
other,
Sorry.
yeah.
Great engineer answer, it depends, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it could be done with
Whatever you can do, you can charm.
handles the consistency problems.
Yeah.
So it's easier with a web service because it's stateless.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how much do these charms need to be aware of each other? Or, because this with Nginx sounds like it's a special feature that Nginx has. Whereas if you were using Apache or something else. Okay,
Nginx does it better.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, now would be a good time to talk about provides and interfaces.
Okay. Yep, well, let me, yeah, I'll get to that. I wanted to finish the second MySQL challenge. The second MySQL just got deployed. So I want to, before I start breaking stuff, I wanted to show you what we have at the moment. Okay, these are my services. We have my blog, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units.
Wow, you're a really busy blogger.
Each one of these guys is related to my one and only database. What Clint was suggesting is that I just deploy a second one, break the relationship between my blog and my database, and we make a new relation between my blog and my database too. And that way I can manually fail it over. So let's try that.
You have to set it as a slave first.
Oh, you won't? Come on.
Otherwise, there won't be any way to get the data. That would be magic, though.
Yeah. Would you want to come around?
Just add relation between the two databases.
That can't be it.
Nope.
It's gonna tell you what to do.
Oh, okay.
So one needs to be server.
So here we're defining which interface to consume in MySQL, and we'll show you that
That?
in a little bit.
Yes,
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
What just happened here is that charms can have multiple, actually, a lot of the charms have multiple interfaces. And sometimes Juju's able to figure out which interface on charm number 1 needs to relate to interface on charm number 2. But when you have multiple interfaces on both sides, it gets confused. It's hard to determine exactly which one of these, when you want to connect to which one of these. So it just gave me the options. If you want to connect the two MySQLs together, you're going to have to pick.
You think we need to wait for a while the DB syncs to the sleep?
Should be a few seconds.
No, I mean if we have like.
Yeah, if I had a few years worth of blog posts, right.
So let's say that I have some infrastructure that's not in Juju and others that isn't Juju. Is there a way that you can maybe do a relation to, spin up a MySQL database in the cloud and then add a
So the question is what if you have services that you've already deployed and you have running on Amazon? Can you just kind of add Juju to them, or do I have to start all over?
For the particular case of MySQL, as far as I know, Clint, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will. It's, you would dump the data that you would have and then just deploy a brand new one.
No, I think what Ben's saying is you have a standing resource.
Yeah,
Right.
You want to access it from Juju deployed things.
that would depend on the charm.
Yeah.
The answer is that there are ways of doing it, yes. None of them are as magical and automatic as deploying new stuff.
So I might just be better off firing up a new one. Maybe.
Mike?
Depending on the size and complexity of it, yeah.
Sorry,
Yes,
can I ask in another way, so if they lost the Bootstrap server, what happened? So can the Juju
So the question is,
all of this really?
yeah, the question is, we had a question earlier about what happens if you lose an instance, and those are service instances.
yes.
But what we didn't go into is that before we even started, you have a Bootstrap node that orchestrates all this. What happens if we lose that node?
Your instances stay, so you're not gonna lose your entire environment. So at least that part, you don't have to freak out so much about it. But you lose the ability to manipulate, add relations, add new relations, and remove existing relations.
So can we recreate this, like the Juju manage all of this again? Or we just recreate all of the stuff?
So would he have to redo all of these steps, or is there a way to like kind of save his topology that he's designed here?
There is a way to save it beforehand. We have another project, Juju doesn't have necessarily all the features that as we've been using it, we've wanted. So we have a sandbox where we start playing with extra features, and we call that Jitsu. Clint made that a while ago. We add in there capabilities that are not currently in Juju. One of those is the ability to export your existing topology. So I can do Jitsu export, and your environment will be exported as a JSON file. And if I want to bring that exact environment as a brand new one, I would just import it, and everything needs to be
That doesn't
configured.
answer his question. What he's saying is the zookeeper node dies.
Yeah.
What do you do?
There's a way to establish a quorum, but it's not within Juju. So as far
If
as
you
I
lose your
know,
Bootstrap node, back to SSH you go.
yes.
I've actually done this where I've kind of painted myself in the corner, and then I was testing something I shouldn't have been testing, and my Juju actually broke, but I didn't notice because I had only added a unit and then kind of left it up and running. And at that point, I just kept the instances running. But it makes it so easy to fire up a new thing. I eventually just exported my data and imported. However, that is a very real concern, right? You need to have HA and things like that. And it's something that we're working on, we just don't have it yet.
Yeah, so
But-
when it's running correctly, then just use the Jitsu to export, I think it's good.
Right, right. But clearly, that's an area where we're improving on, so.
What failed? So yeah, well, our experiment just failed.
You should be about to.
Yes. So let's see what happened in there. Let's say I'm doing my deployment and it breaks.
We have a command that allows us to see what's going on inside of the charm.
Failed at
There you go.
Oh, yeah. It'll fail in a second. We have a command that allows us to see what's going on in the charms as they're being deployed. And it's called Debug Hooks. So you call Juju Debug Hooks and then the unit that you want to look into. And you'll land in a page similar to this one. That's
What's really great here is we log everything on the unit, so you can go in there, and if you do have a problem like this, you can go in there and figure out exactly what failed.
Let me remove that relation. Now, since I'm in a debug hook, it's gonna prompt me to manually run whatever commands needed to be run to accomplish the task that I was trying to do. In this case, I'm breaking the relation so I can add it again and see why it was failing to begin with.
This is a great tool if you're writing a charm as well. So you can go right into the instance, see what fails. So when you're doing that, getting that wiki page for whatever it is you're installing, and you're figuring out how to do that, you can just use debug hooks to see how it actually executes on the node itself. It's a very handy tool if you're charming something.
Let me make sure they broke.
Just use result next time. Try again.
But I wanted to show, since I'm in debug hooks, I wanted to just show how the whole thing works.
Run the same leftover.
All right, let's try. You know, since we're talking so much about MySQL, you should come over here. I mean, you wrote the thing.
Unfortunately, he's leaving for the MySQL roundtable.
George, what I think a cool point is too is, like Marco and Clint, their intellectual prowess is way above mine in both these
Right,
areas.
right.
And for me to be able to do these things,
Right, this is a really great point.
I would have been, I mean, I could have read tons of documentation that is what I really like about it is that I can encapsulate all the great things that they've done in these charms and
Right.
able to take advantage of that each time.
Right.
Whereas if I was doing this on my own or
Right.
writing my own.
So I would I would never be able to do a WordPress setup like this with all the Memcache and the Nginx by myself. At least, like, it would have taken me a lot of research, testing, breaking things, and then something happens, I don't know what to do. What's nice about this is just only these two guys needed to figure that out,
Yeah.
right? And now everyone benefits.
It's reusable.
Right. So anyone, actually, if you're using 1204 and above, you can use any of these charms and deploy them right now, which is really great to get that kind of level.
And we finally got Clint too. We piqued his interest.
Yeah.
Need to open a bug.
No, but Antonio, you brought up a good point. I don't know, a lot of the things that these guys are doing, I'm able to just, benefit from his brain.
It's one thing just to spin up like a WordPress blog.
Right.
And it's another thing to hook up the balancing, the relations, the database, all those things that actually
Right.
make you a functional environment.
Yeah.
And encapsulating all that, I think, what's very important to me about this is, I don't really have to know that. I can be more confident on making my blog run well and
Right.
getting you to know that a lot of encapsulation in the back. That would be-
And this is just a simple service, so something more complicated like Hadoop. Like the first half, you always get the book on something, and the first half's always like installing and configuring it. I could just start directly to the prompt of how to use my actual service instead of wasting time learning how to configure it and install it and stuff like that.
Anybody want to see Hadoop? Because he knows about it.
Yeah, let's open a bug.
The GUI?
Yeah.
It's broken. We need those charm tests.
Okay.
I'm blaming Mims now.
All right.
Ah, there you go. So whenever you have a broken charm, Mark Mims has a setup rig,
Right.
a testing
So,
rig.
so that's a good point to make. One of the things that we're working on doing is running tests all the time on all the charms in the charm store. So that if you go to jujucharms.com/WordPress or whatever it is, like you'll be able to see all the tests passing and what works and what doesn't work for multiple providers. So the quality of the charm being deployable all the time is something that we're going to be just testing over and over again. It's this close to landing.
It's also an open process, so if you guys are interested in learning more about, what we do and how we do it, #Juju on Freenode. We're always there. There's always somebody there to help you out. You wanted to see the Juju UI?
Oh, yeah, do you have it?
No. Clint, do you have the Juju UI?
Web UI?
You just go to UI stage.
Yeah, you can do that.
Where is it?
UI stage, there you go.
Showing you live.
So we've been showing you a command line tool because we're Unix geeks and that's how we roll. However, that doesn't mean that you can't have really, really nice things that build on top of that. So we knew that people, I like to call Juju Legos for the cloud. You can like build stuff with it, and building in that kind of manner really translates well to to UI. So this is just a generated one, it's random. So this isn't actually talking to whatever.
Yeah, it's fake.
But if it was hooked up, this would show you everything that Juju status command was showing you. It was really long and things like that in real time. So this is like where I envision people will be doing a lot of playing. Hey, I wonder if this thing connects to that. And then you can deploy it and it'll gray out things that you can't connect to. It shows a line when there's a relationship, so you know this thing is talking to that thing. And it's easier for our minds to process that as opposed to parsing a huge status lens. So this is something that landed a few weeks ago. And we're really looking forward to see how people use this so that we can make it better. So all the things that he's been typing commands to do, you can do through the web UI here. Yeah.
How about if we need to install this locally so we can see the WordPress just now, or we do need to have like the server itself for orchestrating all the units that we already put there?
Right. So the question is how do you run this? So currently, Kapil's in the process of charming it, but right now you're going to run it locally.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll just have this.
Locally, web server mirroring on the machine itself?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah. Yeah.
It's static HTML5, and your browser's talking directly to Juju.
Right. So Clint wanted to point out that this is straight up HTML5, and it's talking directly to Juju. So it's really just kind of a UI stuck on top. Right. Right. It's not doing any of the logic in the UI. That's just the slick HTML5 stuff.
It must be inside the Bootstrap instance, or?
It should be able to talk to the Bootstrap. It has
Right.
a WebSocket
Yeah.
connects to it. Right now, you run it locally, and Kapil will be done with it soon, we hope.
Tonight, I think, or probably tomorrow. Soon. Yeah, we're really eager to get this in people's hands. Yes, sir. Oh. It's okay. Sorry.
Is this your plan? Yeah.
Chris Kenyon, ladies and gentlemen. So it's really great here. Let's say I wanted to deploy Memcache again. How would I do this here?
It's already here.
Or something else. Just show that part. There you go. So all the things that you saw on jujucharms.com that you can deploy is actually in the UI. So you can say, I want this, you search, and then you click deploy.
And confirm it. And here it is,
And there it is.
somewhere in here, yeah.
So that was a really, really fast one, because it's not connected to anything. But in here, in the little circle, you'll be able to tell whether it's installing on AWS or when it's ready to go, and when you can expose it and things like that. So this is saying pending as in it's launching.
Yeah, I'm trying to add it, and that's why.
Yeah.
It's not done yet.
So,
What else can we deploy?
is there anything that anybody wants to see, or any other specific questions, or?
What happens if you, say your media wiki email it,
Mhm.
you get shot in the head?
Okay, so what happens if the media wiki node goes away?
Let's do it, let's see what happens.
So let's just destroy it. Now I have Lego blocks everywhere, but nothing's connected.
The first thing that comes to mind is just deploy another one, and then make the connections. It's, especially in the UI, it seems to be simple enough for,
Will it, once you add the relationship to the database, will it automatically pick up its configuration again? Or,
It's an interesting question. So the question is do we have to relate it and do all that stuff again, or do we have to start from scratch? Okay, so the answer there is you have to re-relate it, but it'll pick up the data and all the other stuff where it.
If we're actually taking those, you did a destroy service, if you just lost one of the units.
Right.
and another unit, no problems with the database at all.
Right. So there it depends. If you have multiple units and you lose one, you're okay. But if you do a destroy service, that actually kills all. You can say Juju destroy service WordPress, and that would.
You're still okay, the subsequent deployment of that service.
Right.
Capture the same data.
Right. That's a good question, though. No one's ever asked me that before.
Provided it's named the same.
Right,
Based on the-
okay. Yeah, so go back in your history and just do exactly what you did before.
George mentioned earlier about building relations. When I killed the media wiki, it just came back up, and it's actually quite fun to start relating all this stuff. MySQL.
So what's really cool here is I can run MediaWiki, WordPress, all that stuff, all on the same MySQL instance, right? I just keep
Yeah.
adding my relations and stuff.
It's actually quite easy to do it here. You just point and click, and
Right, and I'm not manually creating tables and,
Just integrate the relations too, that's sweet.
yeah.
yeah, because
Do you have the concept of like a hot spare? So like MediaWiki's getting beat up, you just put up a Super Bowl ad and you told everybody to go to your website.
Mm-hmm,
And you start seeing that your node is insufficient, but
right.
it's not HA-able.
So,
Can you spin up your, CG4X or large or index?
right.
Just have this top.
So the question is what happens if, your Super Bowl ad is really successful and you realize that the two small nodes you have, does Juju have any kind of like hot spare or I need, let's just call that auto-scaling,
yeah.
right? Because if I don't need to have instances either, I'd probably want to shut those down as well, right? So,
At the moment, no, we don't auto-scale.
yeah,
It's surprising, the question comes up a lot, so it's something that at some point we're gonna start looking at it. But auto-scaling for you could mean something very different than auto-scaling for me. You may wanna auto-scale when your CPU hit 80% of utilization, and may wanna auto-scale when I saturate my bandwidth. So it sounds like a simple question, but it's a question that when you start digging into it, it's very complicated. And it's something that we want to make sure that we provide the right amount of options and the right amount of flexibility to allow you to do what you think needs to happen and how it
Right.
needs to happen. So it's something that needs to be considered.
right
quite
now it's an
carefully.
explicit thing because it's really hard to get right and we don't want to be like, sorry, we accidentally launched 3,500 new instances of something last night. for you
Yeah, since we have
automatically.
your credentials, you're gonna end
Yeah,
up paying for it.
exactly.
So at the moment, the best answer that we have is manually add, manually remove.
Well, but, and you can support, so you could do the ad unit.
Yes.
with Constraints, you could have an extra large.
Yeah.
And put it behind HA proxy with config so that it's failover and not bound.
That actually works. And that's a prime example on how scaling up and down is something different than what you mentioned and what I mentioned, because you came up with another one.
So right now, what we're doing best practice is add a few units before you announce your Super Bowl ad.
Oh, somebody added Hadoop.
So anyone can play with this
Yeah.
that we have here. It actually resets every 15 minutes, and people just come and they start building things just so they can play with it.
Why we phase out the glance and the static image that previously,
I'm sorry, what?
like if this Juju UI we facing out the glance, like the moving things like from you can
No, it's Gores.
take off. Sorry.
Yeah,
No, Gores is independent of this thing. You can
Yeah.
you can run Gores on the side and have this, because this, like George mentioned earlier, this is just an HTML5 layer on top of Juju. So Juju's still doing everything that it needs to do. And you can still connect via Gores, via, Juju status and Gores and have it show all the
yeah.
moving blocks.
Between Juju and Gores is very superficial compared to the connection between the Juju UI.
Right. So,
You have control from here, Gores is just out there.
right. So my planned use case, if you can't see it on the projector, but at the bottom there's going to be a command line button that will open it up. So I prefer to type things in the command line, but
Oh, here we
I
go.
also like to see it visually while I'm building it, right? So when I type stuff, blocks go into place.
I see the button, but
The button is there, but it doesn't do anything right
that's
now.
pretty cool.
Yes.
I hadn't seen that part either.
Yeah, and you can zoom out and in, and then you'll be able to do all these cool things.
Cassandra by itself, how many, let's see, how many,
Yeah, so here he's just showing what it would look like if stuff was happening.
yeah.
So, do we have any more questions or anything you haven't seen that you want to see, or?
So it looks like Juju actually won't let you build relations to things that it doesn't let you build relations to.
Which is something that it's quite obvious in the UI, but it's a bit of a trial and error on
Right.
the CLI.
Yeah, because I just put Cassandra there and just said, I was trying to figure out what if I decide to put, Mongo up to Cassandra.
Right, right. So that's actually a good question, because it's like, well, you give me all these Lego blocks. Yeah, which one fits with what, right? So if there's a web service that only supports MySQL but not Postgres, what happens if I add the relation? So right now,
No, I wanna show it.
Oh, okay,
Look,
Be able to deploy it.
right.
MediaWiki, let's break the relationships in MediaWiki, right? So I just deployed a brand new MediaWiki and I wanna just create some sort of a relationship. So build relation, you notice how a couple of the things grayed out?
See the grayed out? Do it again. Did it?
No, it graded out, but I didn't keep it that way.
Okay.
Look, build relation. You see how some of the things kind of go away for a minute? So those are the things that I cannot talk to.
Right. That way you won't be connecting like,
And when you have multiple connections and it doesn't know, it just gives you a list of the which one you want to use, the interfaces that you want to use. Why did it go away? I thought that was pretty good because it removes a lot of the confusion. Which
Right.
one of these 50 interfaces do I get to connect?
right. Because right now what I do is I go to jujucharms.com and see what can I connect to this, because it shows.
That's actually
Shows
good
that
to show. I want to show that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the WordPress interface, and we see that it provides HTTP, so one of the interfaces. But if we want to see what else provides and consumes HTTP, we can, via jujucharms.com, we can see all the charms that relate in HTTP, which can come in very handy when you want to start building your services.
So.
Oh, that's a good one.
Next question, what about upgrades?
I want to see if we have it in here. No. From the UI, what is it, Juju? Upgrade charm. So, actually, when Marco was here, he was telling me, no, the WordPress charm that you have is old. I didn't end up deploying the one that I had here, but if that was the case, that I deployed version 5 of WordPress, and then Marco decided to make a new one and it gets pushed, I can just upgrade it by,
So does that upgrade the charm, or does it also get the latest version of WordPress?
that upgrades the charm.
Okay,
If the new charm brings a new version of WordPress, that will happen too.
okay.
On a separate one, you can upgrade to the
Yeah, knowing the, Marco, he'll probably give you every option available. And knowing Clint, he will have hooks for pretty much everything.
Keep the same version of the charm
Right.
and via config set to a different version of WordPress.
One of the things that we're doing, it's, we talk about the flexibility, so Juju allows you a lot of flexibility. You can write the charm in whatever language. And we started writing what we call policy. One of the things that we're gonna, policies on how to write a good charm. One of the things that we're talking about is allowing via config option to say, okay, I want the package that is in the distro, or I want this particular source, or that particular PPA, or I want it straight from Git. That gives you the option of how to get your WordPress in this particular case. So you can upgrade the charm and keep the same WordPress, or you can upgrade WordPress and keep the old charm. But if you want to upgrade the charm, it's upgrade charm, then the service name, and off you go. So in this case, it would be, WordPress. I don't have anything named WordPress.
No, it's my blog.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Right.
Yeah. Now that's gonna go into the charm store, find out the latest one, and of course, this is the latest one. And then just run one of the hooks that we have, which is upgrade charm.
Any other questions?
Yes. Yeah, because,
The question is, will that upgrade all the units?
yeah,
Yes, because we're managing the service, not the individual units.
absolutely.
And how do we do that, one at a time, or does it do it
Now,
down?
That is
the question is if it's going to be done, if we have, in our case, we have five WordPress units, and if I upgrade it, will it do it one at a time, rolling upgrades, I presume is what you mean? And the answer is that at this point, no. When you fire hooks, they all happen at the same time.
You can do rolling upgrades, but it requires you to do to add extra, so you have node another set of nodes with another service name. And the schema changes though in the process,
Yeah.
So at the moment, the answer is they all happen at the same time.
depends on the charm, how it well, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so if no matter upgrading the charm or the WordPress version, if I face some problems, can I fall back or downgrade to the old one?
So the question is can he roll back if the upgrade fails or if there's a problem? No, I guess.
No.
you can if it's through config.
No, but we're talking specifically about the upgrade charm. So, okay, so what he's saying is that you can if it's via a config change. In the config, we're talking about establishing a policy in which we allow you to set a particular configuration option where you get your package from. If you do an upgrade that way, then yes, you can just change it back. If you do an upgrade charm and it fails, you need to deploy a new service. Which, as a precaution, I believe that an option would be to deploy the service with the new one under a separate name to make sure that everything works. Upgrade that. And it goes back to the established practices. You wouldn't upgrade a production server straight out. You would try it on a development environment. So I would end up doing that. I would end up deploying my old WordPress charm as a separate name and upgrading that and working out all the kinks there before I go ahead and put it onto a production environment.
Yeah. And Juju, in the environments.yaml, you can actually define all your environments. So you can have dev, prod, different ones, and you can like test on one, ready to deploy on the other. You can even do it locally on your laptop, before you actually push out to Amazon and so on.
And I didn't have a sanitized one, but Mark gave me one. And it looks something like this. It's a YAML file. It's very simple. This one is rather long because we have, like as George mentioned, we have multiple environments. We have a local environment, which is via LXC. We have a EC2 environment for Amazon. You can see where we have, the main things that you're going to need, your access key and your secret key. The default series in here is going to be, you're going to be deploying Precise, you're going to be deploying Quantal. Where are we going to be getting Juju from, PPA or distro? Which goes back to, the option of where am I going to get my packages? Are we going to get them from the distribution, from PPA, or a particular branch, particular other place that I want to get them from? So as you can see, it's pretty flexible, but at the same time, it's just a YAML file that allows anybody to just update it. A bunch of us have several environments, so we can play with one and then play with the other, break one, and do it that way.
Any other questions?
So small questions regarding to this. So if you specify multiple public key to insert to the instance, how to specify which environment you're using, which private key?
I don't think I'm following.
You need your private key to log into the instance.
Right.
Launch. How to specify which key to use
Where is it in here?
to log in?
Oh, so the question is how to specify which
What's
private
SSH key to use, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so it will default to whatever you have on your .ssh. Is it .idrsa?
So EC2 does not have anything specified, so it'll default to .ssh, IDRSA.
Yes.
file.
Yes.
The HP environment, notice that there are authorized keys. It'll just inject all of those into every instance.
I know, I mean, the private key, this is public key to insert to the instance. Yeah, but Juju need to know which private key should be used to connect to the instance.
Yes, there's a separate directive for that on, I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, you can set up your environment so it points to a particular private key.
It's a Juju config or?
Yeah, no, it's a Juju config.
It's in here,
Okay.
just like this file here, but there's, I forget what it's called.
We have, if you open the webpage, you can just show all of the environment options.
Yeah, funny.
/docs. Oh, sorry.
I think it's SSH authorized keys or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't remember. George will find it right now.
I usually just
Authorized keys path?
There we go. So for each environment, you can provide a separate path. Isn't it this, the one highlighted?
Public key, not private key. Both days long, public key. I tried this before, but no one. It's always trying to ID RSA, but there's only one.
Come see us and we'll connect you to the right people to.
Pretty sure that they're, yeah, I don't see it.
No, I don't remember.
If it's not, we can follow up on it.
Yeah, we need to follow up on that with you after.
Where they have
Yeah, that's, I'm pretty sure it's there.
Yeah, we'll just follow up after.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you.
Any other questions, or are we done? Yes, Mr. Howard?
Yeah, so, like I was, generally when I, see someone do a demonstration, I screw around because I figure I wanna see how it's gonna work the way I wanna use it.
Okay,
And one of the things that I noticed was that, I had a charm that failed to deploy.
okay.
How do you troubleshoot that?
Okay, so the question is he had a charm that failed to deploy. How do you troubleshoot that? And we can do that with, Juju debug, right?
So debug hooks.
Yes, exactly. So
So
it's the exact same thing that he showed before, where it'll just SSH you to the instance, and it'll launch you in like a tmux screen, and then you'll be able to, you'll have access to the machine logs. They're in var log, unit name, something.
let's
They're in there, yeah, let's just show you.
I need power.
Okay, I got you. You keep talking.
Whenever I want to find out what's going on inside of the machine, why a machine failed, or anything about that particular instance, I use the debug hooks. Debug hooks will, like George said, SSH me into the machine in a particular, actually, just in the home directory, but as commands and hooks, etc., start running, this opens a new tmux session with that particular command at the bottom that tells me what to run. You can start by running the particular, the particular one manually and see what's breaking. That's what Clint was doing when he saw the MySQL one. But if you want to find out what happened, SSH into, open the debug hooks, and you can go var lib juju. You see it says units, the unit name that you have at the moment. And you see the file in there that says charm.log. Everything that was done to this machine is logged in there. So let's take a look at it. When you're writing a charm, there's a particular command that we have, juju-log, that we use to start writing information in here. Plus, anything that was, any of the normal output that would have been a consequence of your charm or your actions, apt get install, ls this, or change directory to the other thing, or copy a file, all of it gets dumped into this file. So it's a pretty good indication of what has been done to your machine. And the vast majority of times, we find out what's going on either here by seeing what happened to the machine, and if I don't get the information that I'm looking for out of this file, I go into debug hooks and I just rerun the particular hook install, or break the instance or put a new one, and then
Right,
run
because the charm
debug
is
hooks.
copied to the instance first, so you have that there, so you can just run the hooks manually and figure out what happens. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Nice try.
let's try one.
No, just waiting for you to keep
I
trying to
mean,
break us.
thank you for your question, sir.
Yes.
I can try asking more subversive questions, sure.
No, let's not do that. Any other questions, or should we take a break? All right, so you can find us on juju.ubuntu.com. We have 101 services officially in the store.
Nice.
They all could use new features and, sexy things like we did with the WordPress charm we just showed you is relatively sophisticated, but it's not any place we want to shoot for even more options for each charms and stuff, right? So if you have a service, it's kind of boring if all you're doing is installing and doing a relation. What people really want is like the master slave thing and the cool reverse proxies, and that's the kind of stuff that we could use a hand in. So all of this is open source. You can find it on launchpad.net /charms. And if you're interested in charming or anything, talk to me. We can definitely help get you started on how to write your first charm. And unless we have any other questions, that's it. Thank you for coming. And thanks to Amazon for sponsoring us.